But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, Seth is joining me on the show this week because we're reviewing a movie that's part of a video game franchise that I am very unfamiliar with. Well, I'll say I know of it. It's a famous global video game franchise. But I have actually never really played any of the games, so that's why he's here. Seth is going to help me talk about Sonic the Hedgehog. So, as I just said, I didn't grow up with the Sonic games. I didn't have the Sega or the Sega Genesis. I eventually got the Sega Saturn, but we didn't have any Sonic games when I had it. So, Seth here, you are a Sonic the Hedgehog fan. You told me you've got a bunch of the games you played them. Tell me about you as a Sonic fan.
Let me start out by saying I'm not the biggest Sonic fan. I know that a huge amount of the fandom is still very active on DeviantArt and et cetera. I dropped off with a lot of people back in 2006-07 era, but I played very much all of the games from 91 up to that point. I grew up with the television shows that some of you, I'm sure, don't remember. Saturday morning TV.
Oh,
yeah.
The golden days.
Yeah. There were 2 different Sonic shows that were on that.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm not from, but I'm always a guy who's like, usually, like, because I was a big Saturday morning cartoon person, even when I was admittedly too old for it. But there was always a Sonic cartoon, always a few years away. There was only, because I remember the really goofy ones from when I was younger, where Sonic was voiced by Jaleel White. For those of you who don't know who Jaleel White was Urkel. So yes, Jaleel White was Urkel and Sonic the Hedgehog during the 90s. So that's a little bit interesting bit of trivia for you.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So if you had to say one, going to put you on the spot a bit here. If you had, what was your favorite Sonic game that you played?
My favorite was Sonic Heroes because I was at that age where, like, whatever game that year happened to be out really was the game kind of thing for me. A lot of people just slightly older than me would say Sonic Battle Adventure 2 is the best of all of them. And most people, as far as, like, fans go, would agree with that. But I happen to be one game further.
And if you had to pick one you like the least?
Ooh. So there's a lot of weird Sonic games out there. There's a lot of weird spin-offs. There's a lot of weird with the Sonic community, the Sonic, everything Sonic, when you encompass all of it. As far as the weirdest canon, or the one that I disliked the least, or the one that was, say, less immersive, I would say probably the first Sonic Adventure, not
okay.
Battle.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, now you have your reasons to love or hate Seth based on his Sonic preferences. But yeah. But anyway, so we're gonna get into the movie review now. As always, ladies and gentlemen, if you know this, if you watched the show before, if you don't, your first time, either way, thank you for tuning in. We will start with no spoilers as we go into the movie review, and then we do get into spoilers. I will, of course, announce it, and if you're watching on the live stream, I will, of course, put the spoiler banner down at the bottom of the screen. So you get an auditory and a visual cue for the spoilers, but we're going to be a while before we get into that. So before we get into the movie proper, discussing it, this movie gained a lot of attention last year when the first trailer broke and people saw the design they had for Sonic. What did you think of that first Sonic design? I'm sure you saw it.
I saw it. I actually didn't see the new version of it until I watched the movie. I didn't see any trailers since the original trailers that were first released for the movie. So that was kind of what I thought was going to happen as I was going in. But they actually fixed it quite a bit. As far as originally seeing it, considering most of the Sonic fandom that still exists is based on an art forum, it was kind of scary to look at. It was very impressive that the movie heard all of the fans pretty much revolt against the Sonic design, and it's amazing what they did with it.
Yeah, because once again, I am a Sonic amateur here, but I've seen Sonic. He's that famous as a character, whether in the video games or the many cartoons he's been had over the years. You have a general idea of what Sonic looks like, and it was weird for me. The worst part was his mouth in the original design. It just had the weirdest like chompy. I don't know what it was like. It's like when you're watching a movie and they have like a CGI human looking character, and there's always the mouth. The mouth on those like human characters are always off. I didn't know you could have a mouth off with an animal looking character. I don't think I've seen that before.
Well, they did the opposite. They had a cartoony face with a human mouth on it.
Yeah, it was so it did not match up at all. It was so weird and creepy and
hyper realistic.
Yeah, they were going for that. It was that same. It was like and then his legs. They gave his legs like a human muscular curvature. Like he had like calves and stuff. It was like. And I understand it's live action. I understand they were trying to go for like a unique look to make it stand out against the games and stuff. But it just turned out to be such a horrible thing that like you said, the fans revolted.
Oh, yeah.
And they changed the design, which I got to say, I remember talking about it on the show last year when we talked about the trailer on the show last year. And saying, like, I didn't think they were going to change it.
Oh,
I didn't think they were because obviously it would have cost a lot of money to change the CGI. It had to. I probably cost them for the whole movie because they probably had finished a bunch of stuff at that point. So for them to go back definitely cost them a good chunk of change. And usually studios don't do that because once if they listen to not that the fans shouldn't be heard because you're depending on the fans. Not everybody's a Sonic fan. Not everybody's a video gamer. So the fact that they changed it, great for the fans. But usually when studios avoid that kind of stuff, because once you open that door, then it's like, what will the fans think they can convince you to change, right? It's like that you kind of give you want to satisfy the fans, but you don't want to give the fans power. And the fact that they did it, I commendable in terms of trying to satisfy the fans. Financially, I don't know. Hopefully the movie does well and they get their investment back. We'll see. But anyway, let's get into the movie proper. So the plot of the movie is that Sonic has left his world and he's ended up in our world. He's living in this town in the middle of nowhere, this little mountain town, and he accidentally releases a huge surge of energy that blacks out the whole Western seaboard or something like that. This gets the attention of the government, and the government sends Dr. Robotnik, played by Jim Carrey, after him. Sonic makes friends with local Sheriff Tom, played by James Marsden, and James Marsden decides to help him out. I'm not going to call him Tom. I'm not going to call him, but he's James Marsden to me. I'm sorry. And they go on an adventure where they're trying to get away. They go kind of on a buddy road trip adventure while at the same time battling Robotnik and his robot drones. So that's the basic premise of the movie. So Seth, as my guest, I start things out by we both give our initial thoughts on the film. It's a little minute long, daily. Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
I'll let you go first.
Okay, my initial thoughts on the film are.
It was a lot.
Here's the thing. This is a kids' family film. There's a lot of kids type humor. There's a few little adult jokes in there they sneak in. There's a little here and there, right there. Whenever I review, I have to think would kids, how much have been in it? So my initial thoughts are, it's okay. I think on the higher end of okay, I'll say. But yeah, I'm not sure. I'm a little because I'm the type of guy that could totally get into a kids movie. They had that movie last year. I think it was called Abominable, about a Yeti on an adventure with a young Chinese girl. Totally fun movie. I really enjoyed it. A lot of fun. This kids movie, I'm not so sure about. I don't think it I don't know. Assess what are your initial thoughts? Remember, we're not in spoilers yet, so no spoilers.
Okay. I think
I just love you could say so much by just saying okay. Isn't that fascinating, ladies and gentlemen?
Crazy. I think that like you said, it wasn't exactly the most adventurous movie or anything like that, which I think sticks out in a lot of kids' minds a little bit more. Something that's constant action or adventure or something. This movie wasn't quite that. It was more like a buddy road trip movie.
Yeah.
They had, I would think, slightly more than just a couple of adult jokes. Not necessarily like adult, but like the pop culture that exceeds the target audience.
Yes.
Like there was a couple of jokes about Men in Black.
Yeah.
The first one specifically.
Yeah, kids watching this movie are gonna, may not know what the first Men in Black is, but yeah.
There was a lot of just jokes like that I'm not sure how much a kid would get out of those jokes, but I think a lot of parents watching with their kids got quite a bit of laughs out of.
Yeah. Yeah, because when we were in the theater, right, we're watching the movie, and there's families there, parents, kids. I gotta say, and when I'm watching a kids movie, and as annoying as kids can get, most of the kids actually in our theater were cool.
Oh yeah.
There was this one parent who was on their phone 90% of the time, and it wasn't anything like they were like sending messages or something. They were just on they were on their Instagram and Facebook. And I was like, and they didn't even have to turn the screen brightness down. If you're gonna be that kind of person, turn the screen brightness down. But anyway, I didn't really hear any of the kids laugh or cheer or anything. That's usually why I try to judge when I'm watching a kids movie. That I try to like pay attention to what's going on. Like, are the kids making noises? Are they going wow, ha ha ha? Like, I really didn't hear that from the kids.
You see, I actually did hear one kid not too far from me. Like, it had to be like right behind me, honestly. That would occasionally just go, whoa. Okay. And like you would hear it. Would hear it. It was only during like the really fast-paced scenes, though, which there were maybe 3 or 4.
Yeah. I mean, Sonic, he's Sonic the Hedgehog. He can move at super speed, far faster than Sonic speed. Let's get that out of the way. Like, it's. Oh, hold on.
Oh, in the games, he says Sonic speed quite a bit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's no hiding that one.
Yeah, but if you're watching this movie, he's definitely going a lot faster than like Mach 1 or something.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, there's a few scenes that were reminiscent of the more recent X-Men films where he was moving so fast that people were standing still around him and he was doing like stuff. Right. It reminded me of the Quicksilver scenes from some of the recent X-Men movies.
Well, in the games, there are points where he can break the sound barrier going the speed of sound and whatnot, which is over 600 miles per hour. So as far as science fiction goes, I'd say that's fairly accurate because I wouldn't be able to see something like that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, by the way, I have a little sinus infection, so if you hear me blow my nose, I apologize for that. Took some Dayquil. It's not helping me as much as I hoped. But anyway, yeah. The scenes where he's using his super speed, he's being goofy and creative. So Sonic, let's talk about Sonic as a character. He's pretty young. I never knew like what Sonic's age was in the cartoons and stuff, but they're presenting him as like he's pretty young. Like,
he's young.
Yeah, I would say like he's maybe pubescent, maybe like a teen.
I think in the games he's somewhere around like 15.
Okay,
so he's young. He is young. Definitely not an adult. In the movies, I would probably say they got his personality very well done in the movie. Yeah,
he's super energetic, super talking fast. Like you see with a lot of speedster characters. Like I said, Quicksilver's the same way.
Yeah.
Super energetic. He's definitely reckless because he's a kid. He's a teenager. He's he wants to have fun. He's like
he eats those chili dogs.
He eats those chili dogs. They had a chili dog scene. I knew that much about Sonic. I knew that much. They're definitely using the super speed as much to try to be as creative as possible. Once again, for me, it feels like a little bit like they're kind of like doing the whole Quicksilver from X-Men thing a little too much. But the younger kids in the audience may not be familiar with those films. So for them, this might be their first like, oh my God, Sonic was so cool when he was moving around those people, and people are like, oh, you mean like Quicksilver? And they're like, no, like Sonic.
That they caught more personality than in the Quicksilver scenes while they were doing that, and I think that kind of puts a difference on it. Like it's slight and it's small and subtle, but the fact that they were able to shoot those scenes with the speed and you see him going super fast, but they threw his personality into it
totally.
too.
Yes.
it's amazing what that little touch can actually do.
Oh yeah, because and I'll get off Quicksilver in a minute here because I don't want to make the paying comparisons. But the thing, because Quicksilver has his super speed, they've kept him to a minimum in the X-Men movies. Because if you have a guy with super speed, well, that solves a lot of problems.
Right.
But with Sonic here, he's one of the main characters. It's him and James Marsden's character Tom. They're the main characters, so we get to see a lot of that. We get to see that fully expanded. It kind of, his personality to a degree kind of reminds me of Wally West from the Justice League cartoons from the early 2000s.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, the Wally West Flash. But he's a fun little character. Let's talk about James Marsden's character, who's the human companion that Sonic becomes friends with. So we see in the movie that Sonic, he's been hiding out in this small town. It's like, a little minor spoiler, we'll call that. And he's familiar with a lot of people in the town because he's zooming around. They can't see him because he's so fast. So he's familiar with James Marsden's character, and he wants to be friends with him. What did you think of James Marsden's character?
I think a lot of the movie focused on him. Like, I would almost argue more than Sonic.
A little bit. Like, they were definitely trying to strike a balance. And you see this, the same thing with, the Transformers movies, of the past 15 years.
Right.
It's the Transformers movies. I want to see the Transformers. But they have a human character kind of take center stage. Because first we had...
Shia
LaBeouf, and then we got Mark Wahlberg. Why, Mark? Anyway.
The difference, I would say, though, is there were a couple of different Transformers shows in the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
A couple of them did focus a little bit on the human counterparts, too, even back then.
Yeah.
Sonic, until way later in the game, didn't even have any other people than Eggman.
Yeah.
And that's a very interesting thing, especially when this movie that just came out has this Tom guy being a lot of the screen time, a lot of it.
Yeah, and this is a trope we've seen when they're converting video games or cartoons into movies. Like the one I always go back to is Masters of the Universe, the He-Man movie from the 80s.
I'm a little young for that one.
Oh, Seth, I shall educate you someday.
That sounds good.
But yeah, I've seen this in movies before where they're like, we're adapting a video game or a cartoon, and they're like, they don't either. Well, with the He-Man movie, it was done by the Canon Group, which was the Canon Group. They were like by. If you're into 80s movies, you're famous with the Canon Group. They were a studio that came up and they were trying to compete with the big guys. They had some hits, but they had more misses than hits. So they didn't have a budget to do the He-Man movie. They wanted to do it. So they're like, how can we save on budget? How about in the story if He-Man and the bad guys come to Earth instead, so we don't have to film the whole thing on the magical planet of Eternia?
Right.
And I see that a lot with movies like, what do we do? How do we save good? Because we can't have them in this fantastical land. That would cost too much money. Oh, we'll bring them to Earth. So I've seen that in movies before.
Well, it's not just a budget thing. There's a relatability aspect that even the big budget films saw.
Oh yeah, if you can do it right, then you're totally right about that. But when it came to the He-Man thing, it was totally a budget. They were like,
a lot of people can't do it right. That's just it.
Yeah, but yeah, there was a lot of sharing of screen time with him and Tom's character, which I was kind of expecting. If you watch the trailers, you get that. You get that vibe from it.
Right.
But I don't know. I don't know, James Marsden's character, and once again, this is a kid's movie. Please keep in mind, and I'm aware of it.
Clearly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Please keep in mind when I say these things, I'm aware I'm talking about a kid's film. But I found his character to be a little bland. I don't know. He was simple, but maybe that's all you really need for a kid's film of this nature. Sonic was more memorable than he was. I'll say that.
He was definitely very much the insert adult and realism and story progression here with this guy, whereas Sonic was definitely the entertainment and the zaniness and the furthering of wackiness.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get to the actor in the movie that, despite the fact when the first trailer came out, once again, everyone hated Sonic's look. But the one thing everybody liked about the trailer was Jim Carrey as Dr. Robotnik. I grew up watching Jim Carrey. He was one of my idols growing up. Ace Ventura, The Mask. fuck, I'm blanking on some of his other stuff now. Damn, Liar, Liar. When I was a kid, Jim Carrey could do no wrong. I even liked the Cable Guy, which I didn't find out till later in life.
That was a pretty good one.
Yeah, I love the Cable Guy, but I didn't find out later to life. So apparently, Cable Guy wasn't a big hit, and some people didn't like it because Jim Carrey was playing this dark, creepy dude. And I was like, he's still funny. I don't care if he's dark and creepy.
That's news to me.
Yeah, apparently there was a lot of people because that was the first time he wasn't like the hero. He was like, because he's kind of like the villain in the Cable Guy. But anyway, so Jim Carrey, people loved him in the trailer, and I remember like going through the comments on the trailer on YouTube. I was going down and be like, if this movie's going to be good, it's going to be all thanks to Jim Carrey. Like I kept on seeing comments like that going down.
People were saying that. I remember that.
Yeah. So what did you think of Jim Carrey as Dr. Robotnik?
So Robotnik is one of those challenging characters. He really is.
Okay.
I think it's very tough to even pick a person that could really even be Robotnik. I mean, he's the crazy robot doctor that takes forest animals and makes them into robots to make death machines to destroy the planet for God knows what. So very, very challenging character. I think if anyone could have done it, it was Jim Carrey. A lot of the writing for the character was spot on.
Okay.
Jim Carrey definitely added himself into the role, though.
Oh, yeah, there's definitely some stuff with, like, once again, I'm not a Sonic expert. That's why you're here.
Yeah.
That's why you're here. But that was just like...
That's not Robotnik. That's Jim Carrey.
Yeah, that's Jim Carrey right there.
Right, but a lot of other things were definitely like, who else could have delivered that line?
Yeah.
Things like that were also there. So It's a weird mixture. It really is.
Yeah. He definitely plays his character as like the ultimate egotist. Everybody is below him. He is the summit of all that. He is the best that humanity could ever strive to be. Everyone's below him. Everyone's an idiot or like a caveman or like they can't possibly understand or provide him with any meaningful help. He's all about his machines. He loves his machines.
Still more grounded than Riddler, though.
I'm going to suck out your brains with your televisions. I'm so smart. Yeah, but no, he was going off. And there's the one scene where it's like he's analyzing one of Sonic's quills in his like laboratory. And he's doing this crazy like dance thing. I don't know what it was, but I was like, what's that? I was like, okay.
Very reminiscent of The Mask for me.
A little bit,
like a lot more than anything Sonic, but like Jim Carrey.
Yeah, you knew when they had Jim Carrey on, there was probably a little, because this is like famous thing for Jim Carrey in his movies, where like because it's him, because he's so incredibly creative and on the spot like that.
Right.
There's literally like been times where in his movies where it's like they literally just let him improv and do whatever he does. You know, that's happened in many of his films. So I feel like there's definitely a few scenes in here where they're just improving.
I definitely agree with you on that. Definitely.
One little thing I was surprised about, and this just keep in mind, this is like super minor. Actor Neil McDonough was in the movie. He plays that general that that Robotnik first confronts and tells him how unimportant he is. He's in the trailer. Neil McDonough is an actor who I've seen him in a ton of things. He's one of those I've seen him everything from the Rock movie Walk Tall to playing the villain Damien Dark in the Arrowverse TV shows. Yeah, he's a good actor. And when I saw him in the trailer, I was like, oh, okay, him and Robotnik are going to have this back and forth throughout the whole movie. He's not really in the movie. Like he's like he has that scene, and that's it. I was so surprised. Like once again, he's not like an A-list actor, but he's a constantly working actor that's been in some notable things. I was just like, wow. I was like, once again, it's not like the whole movie hinges on this general character or anything, but I was actually kind of surprised.
I think it kind of did, though. It really established Robotnik. Like in one short scene, it really established this very eccentric character and Jim Carrey's personal portrayal of him. So I think it did its job really well.
Oh yeah, that scene did. That scene, but yeah, that scene did. But I don't know, I guess because of the trailer, because that one scene, how like I was expecting like him to pop him back in, like Robotnik, you can't do this. I'm military. And he's like, I don't care. I'm smarter than you. And he just does what, and then eventually maybe he even like blasts him because his robots are just blasting things left and right, and the government was totally like, no, just send Robotnik at him. I'm like, this guy doesn't seem very stable. The U.S. government. Doesn't even work in movies. God damn.
Right.
But anyway, so here's a technical thing I'll say. And one thing, I can tell this movie was edited weird. There was definitely things cut out. For instance, Sonic has a nickname for Tom. He calls him Donut Man, or Donut Man, or Donut Boy, something like that.
Donut Lord. It was
Donut Lord. Donut Lord.
Yes.
Thank you, Seth. He calls him Donut Lord because, he was like, because he zips around town and he always saw him.
He's a cop, and that's about it.
Yeah, he's a cop eating donuts. He's always eating donuts. So Sonic has a little nickname for him called Donut Lord. And when we finally see Sonic meet Tom's character, he calls him Donut Lord. And Tom goes, "Stop calling me that." And I was like, that was the first time he called you that. And I was like, I feel like there's a moment in that.
He did say that, and then later in the movie, he also said it again.
Yeah, and I was like, he really hasn't called you Donut Lord that much. Why? I feel like there was parts edited out where Sonic called him Donut Lord a few more times.
Well, there were also many times when the characters weren't directly next to each other. Sonic called him Donut Lord before that. So, like...
Yeah,
something in the editing was a little off, but
totally.
It wasn't like break the immersion of the movie or anything.
Yeah. I think it's really one of those things that only someone like me would catch, and you obviously caught it too because you have some.
I think a lot of it was based on the change in Sonic's design. Like in the action sequence, they had to completely redo that because even the size of Sonic is different. You can tell that there was a difference in the size.
Totally,
so they had to redo quite a bit, but
because there's that scene in the trailer that also ended up in the movie where Sonic, he's zooming around all these missiles and he's like knocking them out away and blah blah. Cool little scene, fun little scene. The way he just taps these missiles out with some bullets, he's playing drums. Fun little scene. That was also in the original trailer before they did the makeover. So I'm guessing maybe the change in his body did change some things. Or plus this movie's already an hour and a half long, so I feel like maybe there was a few more things, but because of the kids' film, they wanted to cut it down. Which, for 9 times out of 10, a kids' film, you want to get it to that hour and a half mark, because you cannot keep kids' attention for very long.
Oh, you can't keep my attention very long. I'm very appreciative it was an hour and a half. It really held my attention, though, for that hour and a half. I will say that much.
Okay.
Yeah, it really had my attention.
All right. So, I don't know how deep are we into this? Okay. I think it's about time. You want to get into spoilers, Seth?
Yeah, we could get into some spoilers.
Okay. So before we get into spoilers, for anybody who still wants to see this film but you don't want it to be spoiled, let's give our recommendations now before we get into the spoiler section. Because once we get into spoilers, it's just us ranting. It's just us goofing off. So, Seth, would you recommend this film? Would you not recommend this film? Or would you say, if you're going to see it, go during the matinee and save yourself a few bucks? What would you be your recommended?
I think audience is key with this one. I think for kids and parents looking for good movies for their kids, stuff like that, it does have your attention through it. And there's some stuff for the parents and kids. So I would say that it's probably a really good movie for that kind of stuff. Memorability, I wouldn't say it's the most memorable film, but for people looking for things that are accurate to the series and stuff like that, it's completely its own thing. I don't think it's quite like Dragon Ball Evolution level or anything like that.
Oh, no, God. Oh,
I don't think it's going to be that, which I know there is a large part of the internet that's worried about that.
No,
it's not Avatar: The Last Airbender, M. Night Shyamalan. No. It's none of that kind of stuff. It's not that level. It definitely is its own little thing, though. And I think I would recommend it to most people.
Okay. My recommendation is... I hate to do this because I don't think it's a bad movie. Once again, when I try to think with kids' film, would this be a film that kids would love, get them cheering? Would this be a film like, Mommy, Daddy, I want this, would they want it on DVD or whatever? Would they buy the toys? Do I think this film did that? Personally, I don't think so. I don't think this is going to be that big of a hit. It's not bad. It's far from bad. It's interesting. Like, I liked Sonic, all that stuff. I remember there was 1 or 2 musical choices in the film. I was like, why are we playing? Like the music in the trailer felt like
Yeah.
better. Like the scene where he, like one of the slow motion scene where he's bouncing away the missiles. They were playing. Oh, that was the Gangster Paradise song, which a lot of people had issue with. It worked for me. It worked for me. The musical choices was like, I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah,
that's what I would say.
Yeah, because I'll say people look as though, but music in a movie can really change how you experience it and view it. You'd be like, you'd be surprised. So I will say I'll recommend it I'll recommend you see it, but go see it during the matinee or your local movie theater's cheap ticket day. It's not a bad film. I just don't think it's worth full ticket price.
I don't think so either. Yeah. I would say for DVD to loop for your kid, definitely. Like that kind of thing, just to loop again and again.
Yeah,
They'll love that kind of stuff. As far as buying toys or spending the dollars on the theater seats, probably not.
No. I'll say that the funny thing about the toy line, I'm sure there was a toy line for this, but honestly, I'd probably buy the Robotnik robots before I bought the Sonic action figure.
Well, that's the cool stuff.
Yeah,
but like at the same rate, it didn't quite get released before Christmas like they were originally planning either because of the art direction.
Yeah. So that probably hurt them a bit.
Yeah.
Oh, man. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, those are our recommendations for the movie. I leave it up to you whether you trust us or you're going to do your own thing. Hey everybody, hope you enjoyed that clip. If you want to see a full episode, I live stream every Thursday night on Facebook right after I see the movie, or you can tune in to the Revenge Online Radio Network every Friday morning at 9 a.m. If you enjoyed the show, please consider contributing to the Patreon, patreon.com/POVincent.